Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're gonna take a deep dive into AGI Greenpac Ltd.
AGI Greenpac.
They just released their Q3 FY25 financial results, and we're gonna break down what it all means.
Okay.
We've got all the goods, the official filings to the Bombay Stock Exchange and the National Stock Exchange of India, their press release, investor presentation.
Mm.
We even got a set of questions from someone out there who's really curious about this company's performance.
Nice.
But before we get into all that,
Yeah.
AGI Greenpac used to be called HSIL Limited.
Oh.
You might recognize that name.
Yeah, maybe.
But before we really dive in, maybe you can give us a quick overview of what AGI Greenpac actually does.
Sure. So AGI Greenpac is a major player in the packaging industry in India.
Yeah.
They produce a range of packaging products, like glass containers for beverages, PET bottles, and even those specialized caps with anti-counterfeiting features.
Oh.
They've got a pretty big network of 7 manufacturing plants across India, supplying products to over 500 clients. So yeah, they're a pretty big deal.
7 plants and 500 clients. That's pretty impressive. Okay, so let's jump into their Q3 performance. A 20% jump in EBITDA. That's earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization.
Right.
Landing at a cool 185 crore rupees.
Wow.
What does a jump like that tell us beyond just, the numbers themselves?
Well, a significant increase in EBITDA like that usually suggests that a company is becoming more efficient in its operations.
Okay.
It's a positive sign, because it shows that their core operations are generating more profit, which is good for long-term growth. And on top of that, their profit after tax, or paid, increased by an even greater percentage,
35%.
35% to 91 crore rupees. So that's really good news.
Sounds like they're on a roll. But we got to look at the bigger picture. A single quarter doesn't tell the whole story, does it? What about their performance for the first 9 months of this fiscal year?
Right. For the first 9 months of FY25, they recorded revenue of 1,824 crore rupees,
Okay.
with EBITDA climbing 15% to 497 crore and PAT soaring 21% to 226 crore.
Okay.
And remember, these are all comparisons to the same period last year.
So consistent growth across the board, that's got to be a good sign.
Absolutely. This consistent growth indicates sustainable growth and is definitely a positive sign for the company's future prospects. But of course, we need to dive deeper to understand the factors driving this success.
Well, their chairman, Mr. Sandeep Somani, seems really happy.
Right.
In their press release, he talks about how amazing their team is, their smart strategies, and their strong focus on their customers.
Of course, yeah.
But, every company says that, right?
Every company does. But in AGI Greenpac's case, their financials seem to support their claims. So there's some substance behind the talk.
Okay, so let's get down to brass tacks here. We've got this list of questions from somebody who's been doing their research on AGI Greenpac. So let's dig in and see if we can shed some light on what's behind those impressive numbers. First up, how did their revenue perform in Q3 FY25 compared to, the previous quarter and the same period last year?
Sure, let's do it. We need to look at the different segments of their business, not just revenue alone.
Okay.
It's kind of like, examining the different ingredients in a recipe to see how they all contribute to the final flavor.
I like that. So we'll be using all our sources.
No.
The raw numbers, insights from their investor presentation, and the context from their press release
Yeah.
to give us a full picture as we tackle these questions. And I'm telling you, there are a lot of them.
That'll be fun.
Okay, so let's start with their Q3 performance. One thing that jumped out at me was their cost structure.
Okay.
Specifically, their total cost of materials consumed. It seems like they managed to bring that down compared to the previous quarter, which I found pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a good point. Their statements show that their cost of materials consumed in Q3 FY25 was 176.75 crore rupees, down from 198.66 crore in Q2. There could be several reasons for this decrease, such as negotiating better prices with their suppliers or implementing more efficient manufacturing processes.
And this actually ties into their commitment to sustainability. They've got this whole section in their investor presentation where they talk about all the different initiatives they've implemented, like increasing their use of renewable energy and optimizing their waste treatment processes.
Yeah.
All these efforts seem to be paying off in terms of cost savings, which is a good sign for their overall profitability.
Definitely. Sustainability is becoming more and more important for companies, both from an environmental perspective and a financial perspective.
Absolutely. But I almost forgot we were going to break down AGI Greenpac's Q3 revenue compared to last quarter and the same period last year.
Oh, yeah.
So in Q3 FY25, their revenue from operations came in at 599.18 crore rupees. Now compared to Q2 FY25, which was 658.48 crore, that's a slight dip. But compared to Q3 of FY24, which was 622.70 crore, we're actually seeing year-over-year growth, even with that little dip quarter-over-quarter.
Interesting. Why do you think there was a quarter-over-quarter dip even with a year-over-year increase?
Well, that's where understanding their different business segments comes in. Their investor presentation highlights their glass container business, which makes up most of their revenue, as continuing to perform very well. They even mentioned that their capacity utilization exceeded 95% this quarter.
Well, that's really high.
Exactly.
High capacity utilization is generally a good sign for a company's profitability.
Right. So it seems like that slight dip in overall revenue might be coming from other segments, like PET bottles or closures,
Right.
rather than their core glass container business. We also have to think about the overall market conditions. AGI's presentation highlights the alcoholic beverages market specifically, beer and spirits as a major growth driver for them. So even small changes in consumer preferences or, seasonal trends in that market could impact those quarter-to-quarter comparisons.
That's a good point. The alcoholic beverages market can be influenced by various factors like changing consumer tastes, economic conditions, and even things like government regulations.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the next question on our list. Did AGI Greenpac announce any major investments or acquisitions during Q3? Anything that could signal a big shift in their strategy?
Well, they didn't announce any big acquisitions this quarter, but in their filings, they did mention the incorporation of two new subsidiaries, AGI Retail Private Limited, based in India, and Sunreach Pack, based in the UAE.
Hold on, subsidiaries, what's the strategy behind that?
Well, creating a subsidiary like AGI Retail could suggest they're trying to expand their direct-to-consumer business.
Oh, okay.
Potentially selling their products directly to consumers. And then with Sunreach Pack in the UAE, it looks like they're making moves to boost their international exports.
So basically expanding into new markets and reaching new customers.
Exactly. It seems like their strategy is all about growth, both domestically and internationally.
Speaking of growth, how are they managing their debt and, capital expenditure? Nobody wants to see a company drowning in debt, right?
True.
Yeah.
These quarterly reports usually don't go into much detail about those things.
Okay.
But for the full picture of their debt and investment strategies, we'll have to wait for their annual report.
Okay, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But, they did talk about that new platinum-rated green building
Oh, right?
in their presentation. That's got to be a pretty big investment, don't you think?
Yeah, definitely. It's a great example of how AGI Greenpac is putting their commitment to sustainability into action. And remember, that green building isn't just about looking good. It's about attracting investors who are looking for environmentally conscious companies.
Right, those ESG investors.
Exactly.
And it can help reduce their operating costs and enhance their brand image. And speaking of their brand image, have you seen all the awards they've been winning lately? It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, it's quite a list. Best Brand 2024 by ET Edge, Fastest Decarbonizing Packaging Products Company of the Year, an Innovation Excellence Award, and they even won a bronze at the International Green Apple Environment Awards, which was held at Kensington Palace.
Kensington Palace, that's pretty fancy. So they're being recognized for their financial performance, sustainability practices, and innovation. That's a good sign that they're taking a holistic approach to their business.
Absolutely. They're not just focusing on one aspect of their operations, they're trying to excel in all areas, which is a recipe for long-term success. Now, I'm curious, what are your thoughts on their leadership team?
Well, they seem to have a pretty solid team. Mr. Sandeep Somani is the chairman and managing director. He's got tons of experience.
Right.
Then there's Mr. Rajesh Khosla, the CEO, and Mr. Om Prakash Pandey, the CFO. But what I find most interesting is their board composition. Their presentation highlights that 50% of their board members are independent directors, including some really notable figures. There's Mr. Anil Wadhwa, a former Indian ambassador, and Mrs. Himalayani Gupta, a highly experienced advocate.
That's impressive.
Yeah.
Having independent directors, especially those with such diverse backgrounds, is really important for good corporate governance. It shows that they value different perspectives, which is crucial for making sound decisions.
Okay, so wrapping up this part of the deep dive, it seems like AGI Greenpac's Q3 performance was pretty solid. What stands out to you?
Well, their financials are strong, their commitment to sustainability is evident in their actions, and they have a strong and experienced leadership team.
Mm-hmm.
So it's looking pretty good for them right now.
Okay, and there's still more to explore. Next, we're going to look at their commitment to sustainability and how that ties into their overall performance. Stay tuned.
Looking forward to it. So, moving on, we were talking about sustainability and how it plays a role in their overall financial picture. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's a good question. It seems like more and more investors are really interested in sustainability these days. It's not just about, feeling good. It's about understanding that sustainable practices can actually benefit a company financially.
Exactly. And AGI Greenpac seems to be doing more than just talking about it.
Oh, yeah.
They're investing in green initiatives, winning awards for their efforts,
Mm-hmm.
and highlighting it in their presentations to investors.
Right. They're definitely walking the walk. But how does that actually translate into tangible benefit?
Well, think about those awards they've been getting. They're not just, you know, trophies to put on a shelf. They're signals to the market that AGI Greenpac is a leader in sustainability. And that can attract investors who are specifically looking for companies with strong ESG credentials.
So those awards are actually a big deal. They can actually bring in more investors who care about sustainability.
Exactly. And it goes beyond just attracting investors.
Mm.
Consumers are also becoming more aware of the environmental impact of the products they buy. So being seen as a sustainable company can give AGI Greenpac a competitive edge. They might even be able to charge a premium for their products because of it.
That makes sense. So sustainability is a win-win for them.
Sure.
Good for the planet and good for their bottom line. It's great to see a company doing well by doing good.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about those big, flashy initiatives like that platinum-rated green building.
Hmm.
They're focusing on operational efficiency too,
Oh, right.
which can lead to cost savings, like
Yeah.
their efforts to reduce waste, optimize their energy consumption.
Mhm.
Those might seem like small things,
Yeah.
but they add up to big savings over time.
So it's like they're constantly finding ways to improve, both for the environment and for their financial performance.
Right. It's a really holistic approach. Okay, are you ready to tackle some more technical questions?
Mm-hmm.
We have a set that digs deeper into their financials.
Sure, let's do it. But let's remember that not everyone listening is a financial expert. So as we go through these, let's try to keep things simple and clear, even for folks who aren't familiar with all the financial lingo.
Of course, we'll break it down and make it easy to understand.
Okay, so this first question is about AGI Greenpac's cash flow. What can we learn about that from their Q3 report?
Well, remember, these quarterly reports don't usually include a full cash flow statement,
Okay.
but we can still get some insights. We were talking about their EBITDA performance earlier. That's a good place to start for understanding their cash flow.
Right, because EBITDA gives us an idea of how much cash they're generating from their main operations.
Exactly. But it's just one piece of the puzzle. To get the whole picture, we need the full cash flow statement. The one with details about investments, debt repayments, all that.
So we'll have to wait for their annual report to get the full scoop.
Right.
But based on their strong EBITDA, it seems like they're probably doing all right in terms of cash flow.
That's a fair assessment. Now, the next question is about any potential changes that could impact AGI's performance in the future, either in their operations or the market itself. Any thoughts on that?
Well, there are always external factors that could come up and affect any company.
Right.
But it seems like AGI Greenpac is pretty proactive when it comes to managing risk and capitalizing on opportunities.
Definitely. They've shown that they're willing to adapt and evolve as needed, like expanding into new markets, as we talked about earlier. That move to the UAE is a good example of that. Diversifying their revenue streams is smart.
Right. So they're not putting all their eggs in one basket.
Exactly.
And they're investing in R&D, which could lead to some exciting new products and give them an even stronger competitive advantage.
That's right. They're not just sitting back and relaxing. They're constantly looking for ways to improve and stay ahead of the competition. So I think they're well positioned to handle whatever challenges might come their way.
Okay, so next up, competition. How do they stack up against others in the industry?
Yeah, these reports don't usually include a detailed analysis of the competition, but we can use the information they do provide to make some educated guesses.
Okay, I like that. So, using what we know about the industry and AGI's strengths, we can draw some conclusions.
Exactly. We know they're a major player in the Indian glass container market, and that the alcoholic beverages sector is booming, which is great for them.
Right.
So if that market keeps growing, it's reasonable to think AGI is in a good position to benefit. But of course, we have to consider the competition.
Right. Are there any threats on the horizon? What do they need to look out for?
Well, one thing to watch out for is global companies entering the India market.
Oh, okay.
As the Indian economy grows, it's attracting more and more international companies. So AGI might face increased competition from those players.
So they'll have to defend their turf. What can they do to maintain their edge?
One strategy is to focus on innovation, maybe develop new, sustainable packaging solutions that are really appealing to consumers,
Mm.
or come up with some unique features that set them apart from the competition.
That makes sense. And they can leverage those strong relationships they already have with their customers, make sure they're providing top-notch service.
Exactly. Keeping your existing customers happy is just as important as attracting new ones.
Mm.
Okay, last question in this set. Any big changes in their cost structure or operational efficiency this quarter?
We talked about this a little bit already, but yeah, their EBITDA margin expansion was pretty impressive.
Definitely. That's a clear sign that they're getting more efficient.
Right, that 27.4% EBITDA margin in Q3 is way higher than last year's 24.5% for the same quarter,
Right.
and even a bit higher than the previous quarter's 27.2%. So it looks like they're doing a good job managing costs and streamlining their operations.
Absolutely. And that's not happening by accident. They put in a lot of work to improve their processes, reduce waste, and negotiate better deals. All of that adds up to better profitability. And don't forget about their sustainability focus.
Mm.
Those efforts can really help control costs as well.
Yeah.
It's a win-win situation.
Hmm.
Good for the planet and good for their financials. So what are your overall thoughts on their performance?
Overall, I'm impressed. They've got strong financials, a real commitment to sustainability, and a leadership team that seems to know what they're doing.
I agree. They're ticking all the right boxes. But, as with any company, there are always potential challenges and opportunities on the horizon.
Right. The packaging world is constantly changing, and AGI will have to adapt to stay ahead of the game.
Exactly. Okay, should we move on to the next set of questions?
Yeah, let's do it. We've got some really interesting stuff to unpack. So we've covered a lot of ground today, haven't we? From AGI Greenpac's impressive financial performance to their commitment to sustainability and their plans for the future.
Yeah, we've looked at their revenue growth, their focus on efficiency, even the makeup of their leadership team and board. It's been a pretty deep dive.
It really has. But before we wrap things up, we always like to leave our listeners with something to think about, a final thought to spark their curiosity and keep them engaged.
Yeah, I like that.
So we know AGI is doing great right now, but as with any company, there are always things that could potentially disrupt their success down the road. What do you think? What are some factors that could pose challenges or even create exciting opportunities for them in the future?
That's a good question. Well, the packaging industry is constantly changing, right? New technologies, shifting consumer preferences, global economic conditions. It's a dynamic landscape.
Right. So what could shake things up for AGI?
Well, one thing that comes to mind is the rise of alternative packaging materials.
Oh, okay.
Biodegradable or compostable options. Those are becoming more popular as consumers become more environmentally conscious.
That's a good point. So if those alternatives start taking off, that could impact AGI's business.
Exactly. And there's always the possibility of increased competition from global players, companies that enter the Indian market with really aggressive pricing or innovative products.
Right. So AGI will have to stay on top of their game to compete. What else?
Well, we can't forget about government regulations.
Oh, right.
New regulations may be aimed at reducing plastic waste or promoting the circular economy. Those could create challenges for AGI or maybe even some unexpected opportunities.
Interesting. So lots of potential changes on the horizon, but I think the key takeaway here is that even a successful company like AGI can't just sit back and relax. They need to be flexible, innovative, and always looking ahead to anticipate what's coming next.
Absolutely. Success is a journey, not a destination.
Right. And that's what makes it so fascinating to follow these companies and see how they navigate these challenges and capitalize on new opportunities.
I agree. It's always a learning experience.
Well said. So, to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has given you the knowledge and context you need to follow AGI Greenpac's story with a critical eye and a sense of curiosity.
Keep asking questions, stay engaged, and never stop learning.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thanks for joining us on the deep dive. We'll be back soon with another insightful exploration of a company making waves in the business world. Until then, stay curious.